The Bay Area, so happy to be back home again. I grew up in Southern California, went to school here. Our vision is helping eradicate poverty of mind, body, and spirit. And the reason we chose that is because I spent a long career in corporate America, and I saw all of the advantages, all of the excess, and then I looked in my community where people were struggling, where Black and brown people and indigenous people, sometimes called BIPOC, were struggling, and I realized that for the communities with the least, agencies and resources are held back. And so I wanted to give opportunities that would show access, opportunities that would show growth, opportunities that would help people who had the least understand how they could get the most.
Hi everyone, my name is Sterlina Cerritos and I am the Director of Business Development for West Cal Academy. It's a nonprofit program that runs the West Cal Pre-Apprenticeship Program, and although we do serve everybody from every race, we have a particular focus on students that are justice impacted, students that have invisible disabilities, any overlooked communities, which includes the Black and brown communities. And I can definitely draw from my experiences coming from a Latino community. I've seen a lot of the struggles that the people from the Latino community face, including those that are undocumented and having restricted access to workforce resources. So I'll get to some more later on, but we have a focus on apprenticeships and giving everyone an opportunity to earn a thriving wage.
Hi, I'm Lisa Frankie. Good evening. My corporation or my vision is called Exodus, and Exodus actually talks about unconscious and conscious bias, how we work through that through a corporate level. My background has been in 40 years of healthcare equity, dealing with the underserved communities, whether it's pediatrics, OBGYN, acute hospital settings, whether that be primary care. The campuses that I've gotten to work with is Hubert Humphrey, Harbor UCLA. I've got to work in private industry. I've worked in sports medicine, kinesiology. I've worked in pediatrics. I've worked in the HIV community, working with infectious disease practices when there was a time that there was no one handling infectious disease. That was a journey back with Molina Healthcare and a wonderful infectious disease physician by the name of Dr. Jesse Sharon. So I've had a journey in doing that. I think now as I have shifted is actually working within the communities dealing with grief and loss and disenfranchised loss. I'm a thanatologist by study. Thanos, or thanatology, is the study of death, dying, and loss. So it's actually a grief counselor. So my background is in end-of-life palliative care, okay? And what that looks like when we go through mourning, it's a different process when we mourn and when we lose. And right now we have the heaviest population that is dealing with suicide, stress, pressure, anxiety. How do we do that? How do we move through that process? And how do we do it in the lens of race? It's a very different microcosm. And so I'm going to popcorn back to my colleague.
What's Jay's question? Is he with us yet?
Yep.
All right, so thank you all for the intros. I would say, you've all teed up very nicely the first and most important question, which is, what changes when we're dealing with people who are coming from underserved backgrounds, right? What's the area that we need to focus on? The resource that's missing, the help that we need to offer. I know you each have different organizations working in different areas, so I think it'll be interesting to have each of you talk about what you specifically see as some of the distinctive things that we need to attend to, address and nurture.
Okay, so I taught in, they called it a health worker for a direct support specialist for the homeless. So in the homeless sector, it used to be ran by peer specialists. Then it became big money, then you had to have a degree. Now we're going back to peer specialists. But in that, they said we were gonna have a wage increase, which we did not have. We worked all through the pandemic. Nobody cared. We were very stressed. We was overworked. Then they turned around and said, for all the people that we trained, and we have a 76% higher rate because I worked in the homeless sector field, so the people that I knew would hire the people that we trained. Then they said, well, if you're on welfare, we're gonna cut you off. You haven't even passed probation. So then everyone that was offered a job was scared to accept the job because now they're uncomfortable because they're comfortable with the county check. They don't have health care for them and their child. They won't have child care. You talked about that earlier. All of that will be wiped out at the very first paycheck, and they have not passed probation. And in this field, probation can be from 3 months to 6 months. So you've taken their security away from them into an unknown, not knowing if they're gonna be able to survive even in this field. It's a hostile environment because now we're going back to peer specialists working instead of degreed people working, and the degreed people that are there don't wanna lose their position, so it's hostile. But it's enough for us all to be there because you see the numbers for the homeless. But they don't feel it's enough. So the answer to that is the government needs to understand that when we offering these people, the hard to employ, my veterans, my homeless, my seniors, when we're offering them employment, we have to give them a chance to get on their feet before we snatch the rug from underneath them. So, that's where I have.
Thank you.
That was good.
Yeah.
Okay, that was good. So I'm Michelle. I have 2 areas in my foundation. One is capacity building for nonprofits, and that's where I pull from my corporate background, teaching things like separation of business and personal finance, having your books together, making sure that the back office looks as good as the front door so that you can, and how to position yourself for funding. A lot of agencies of color are doing amazing work in their community, but they're serving out of their passion without having the business acumen to sustain their vision. So they might get a city grant, or they might get a county grant, or they might get a small community foundation grant, but they do not have built-in measures and abilities to sustain and grow that funding. And when they disappear, there's no one to take their place, because they're the ones who care about the community, because they come from the community, or they serve the community, and they serve faithfully, and many of them serve out of their own pocket without realizing that there's funding available or how to position themselves to get that funding. So that's one piece. And then some deeper work we do is we have a merchant marine training program, and we just received a planning grant from the state of California to expand this historically Black-led, Black-founded program across the state. So we are partnering with West Cal Academy to come into Southern California. So I'm not just sneaking in, I'm coming correct. But what I see, merchant seamanship is a fascinating, amazing career. And we have, I'm gonna speak in very practical terms, we have a trainer who is African-American male, 3rd generation merchant seaman out of the Bay Area. His brothers all went to sea, their father went to sea, their grandfather went to sea. And this is a career where an opportunity has been lost for people of color. When you speak to someone about my age, not saying what that is, but y'all can guess, you'll often hear, oh, I had a great uncle or I had a grandfather who was a merchant seaman, but you don't hear that anymore. So the young people of color no longer know about this career, despite the fact that the Port of Oakland is the #9th largest container port in the country. LA is #1, Long Beach is #3.
That's right.
So there are opportunities and jobs and resources in these fields. The merchant marine training field, real practical, what has made a difference is, and I have seen young men and women dreaded, tatted up, just as impacted, maybe got through high school, sort of got through high school, sit on the edge of their seat because they have not seen someone who looks like them stand in their authority as a seaman for 30 years and say, I did this, and this is how I did it, and you can do it too. So that's one of the secrets, right? When you see people that look like you, who care about you, who are investing in you, and who then say, you can do it too, and let me show you how. that instills something in someone, that instills something positive in someone, that gives someone hope, that gives someone an opportunity that says, wow, you really believe in me, you're not just checking a box, you're not just trying to make your numbers and I'm not gonna see you in my community again, you're here for the long haul.
Wow.
I love everything you just said.
Wow.
And
A lot of it I feel applies to what we do at West Cal Academy. Especially because we deal with a lot of students that are between the ages of, believe it or not, 11, all the way up to even 26. And because of that, up to the age of 26, because we work with the LA County Probation Halls and Camps. And it goes from places like DKC, the Dorothy Kirby Center in Commerce, where they have young people from as young as 11 years old. Some of them, believe it or not, are fathers at the age of 12 or 13 years old, and all the way up to the age of 26, because that's the age limit for Barry J. Nydorf that we currently are running our program in Silmar. And a lot of these students are disproportionately Black and brown students. And one of the things that we address to help, get these students back on their feet or get them on the right track is we have to understand the communities that they're coming from. A lot of them come from communities that are, like broken. They lack resources, and I got to familiarize myself a little more when I was working as a census worker back in 2020, and I was assigned the South Central area. And I had always lived adjacent to the area in Pico Union, just maybe like a mile from the Adams neighborhood all the way down to South Central. But it never really hit me how much these communities are lacking resources when I actually work there. So when I assist at the halls and camps, taking different industries there, I have like an insight into where they're coming from, and I want to help them out. So it doesn't matter, for me, we help all the races, but specifically Black and brown communities. And apprenticeships, I believe, are a way to help everyone. We want to give everyone a chance. So I would like to pass it on.
I'm going to get to the heart of the matter. And sometimes you have to be transparent enough too when you're looking at being marginalized. What does marginalized mean? Okay, what does disenfranchised mean? What does health equity mean? So I can only start with myself. Both of my parents were heroin addicts. Both. I was raised by my grandmother in Spanish Harlem, and so what they said to us is that el que no oiga consejo no llega viejo, which means he that does not hear the counsel of the wise or the elders never gets to where they're going. So see the vision of what it is and understand that there's some families that are born with allergies, heroin, drugs, a whole lot of things, alcohol. But that isn't a sentence for you. You don't have to take what society has said to you and say that that is the way that you will live your life. It's about choices. And so you got a choice. If you can hustle, right? Raise a car, drop a car, paint a car. That's mathematics, right? If you're good at athletics, that may be a field of kinesiology that you move into, right? If you're a mathematician, it might be STEM. Because my uncles ran numbers in Harlem, and all of them were mathematicians because they kept all those numbers in their head. And I mean a lot of numbers. And created in bodegas, where they would deposit Social Security, FICA, and SSN. So when they retired, right, those men had Social Security checks. So the things that we see are a disadvantage are really an advantage, but you have to look at it through the lens of color. Does it look better 1? Does it look better 2? Does it look better 3? Does it look better 4? As an ophthalmologist. Because society would say you're not going to make it because we weren't given the skill set to be able to do that, okay? And some journeys are unconventional, right? Everybody's not gonna go to college. Everybody ain't college material. And some people that have their own stores, they have markets, they have clothing lines, their Instagram, their influencers. That is a skill set to be able to talk and utilize the skill set that you were given. What I would say, as far as transferring things and power, is what's your skill set? What's your vision? Where do you want to go? And if you don't know how to write a footnote, because I was dyslexic, so when I got to my master's degree program, I didn't even realize that I had all of the elements for my papers there, but I was dyslexic. And so one of my professors said, you'll learn how to be a wordsmith, because the way you talk is not the way that you write in academia. But if you don't see anything that you can connect to, do you understand what I'm saying? They're not like us. And they're never gonna be like us. You understand what I'm saying? And so you have to prepare your children to go into academia, or you have to prepare them in business in a very different manner via race. Whether you be Vietnamese, Chinese, Cambodian, Puerto Rican, Dominican, African, Jamaican, whatever that is, it's a different role, it's a different lens. And so you have to be comfortable when you walk into a room, and we talked about that. You know, you have to be comfortable in your skin. That's where the healing starts. Because you can get the business loan, you can get into the hall, but are you going to be able to stay there? Because it's pressure. And so how do you deal with suicidal ideation? How do you deal with that? How do you deal with the depression? How do you deal with not having the money? How do you deal when the food stamps don't extend? I'm keeping it 100. You understand what I'm saying? What food pantries? Where do I go to get medications? How do I manage all that? And so it's a very different world in managing in the corporate office to do that. So I'm going to popcorn back to my left, but I'm just saying these are the resources that we have, and we have to we can't do that in 10 minutes. But there's a lot of resources where we can, and there's a way to do that. And a portion of that is dealing with healing within our races. We have to heal first.
Pop, pop.
Pop.
I love all of this, and I want to make sure, before we move on to getting your thoughts and observations on other issues, tell us a little bit more about resources you need to be able to build on and expand the work that you're doing right now. Yeah. Right? This is an opportunity. We have people in the room right now, as well as people watching online, who may have access to a person or a resource that might be helpful. So lay it out there. What are some of the things that you are struggling with right now that you think you could, that you could really use some help in?
Well, Jay, okay. So we always all need money, because the demographic that we serve, we always need funding. No matter, most of the grants and RFPs and stuff that we write, they don't do full funding. They give you partial funding. So you're always fundraising. You're always a professional beggar, asking someone, can you please buy into what we're doing? So that's the number one thing. Then you need, unfortunately, we need celebrity endorsements. That's what the new society thrives off of. Someone else that's popular to buy into what we're doing in order for them to take a stand and a notion for even the funders to give it. My team is always filming something. But let me tell you something, how I feel about it. Now you want me to exploit an already exploited person. But I can't get the funding to do that unless I put them on camera, or I'm taking their social security number. I'm having them sign in on a document, because that's what the funders want. So the funders always want you to document what you're doing, put them on camera, take their picture, have them make a story. They're already exploited. So I would like someone to give us not a capacity building grant, but full funding to do what we're doing without exploiting the already vulnerable class of the planet.
I'm next. Am I up? There we go. I'm up next. I have a couple of things. One thing we're looking at, especially with our apprenticeship program, is working with other agencies that support our population. We train to be merchant seamen, right? But the audience that we're working with, the trainees that we're working with, they need a lot of wraparound support.
Yes.
So we're looking at how do we partner with other agencies to for you to refer in your trainees, or for you to refer in people to the apprenticeship program, but still be involved with them, so that if somebody has an issue, they have somewhere to refer back to. They don't just have to figure it out on their own. I mean, how can we, I think of wraparound as how we wrap our arms around them. So if somebody needs to learn how to open a bank account, and know how to manage their finances, then we need that resource to do that, right? It takes a lot more
Yes.
to be successful than just putting someone into a job when they have been, they come from a community of color, when they are low income, when they are poor, as the gentleman said before, or just as impacted. So
Right.
you have to look at what those gaps are and be able to fill those gaps. And then we need funders to be aware of that need, so that we can provide that wraparound counseling, whether it's a housing need, whether it's a literacy need. You know, it's a career where you don't have to have a high school education, but sometimes they need literacy and test-taking support.
Yeah.
We've had homeless trainees who needed a place to live. We've had trainees who had food and transportation issues. So the ability to fill those gaps and recognize that someone who comes in who is affluent and enters into this career has the resources to do all of those things. But it's more than just footing the bill. It's
That's right.
were they able to get there? Were they able to get home? Did they have food to eat?
That's
Did
right.
we feed them when they're in our training class? Because we
Yeah.
realize a lot of
That's
them are
right.
hungry,
That's right.
so
That's
we
right.
provide hot food. I was amazed when I left corporate America. And in corporate America, you can get to a point where you get a little snooty with it.
Yeah.
Right? You know, I worked in MTV for 10 years. I was an assistant vice president at Wells Fargo for 8 years. Don't come to a meeting. Of course, there's going to be food, and it's going to be good. And have go out of town. You're going to put me up in a nice hotel, and you're going to feed me, and you're going to give me gifts. I expect that, and that comes. And then you see a grant. I remember when I was an executive director of an organization that worked with the homeless, and the criteria was you can't buy food. Like, but they're hungry. How are they gonna focus on getting to work and they're hungry? And so in communities of color,
Yeah.
food is how we take care of each other.
Yes.
In many of our grantors, food is the exact thing that they take away, because they're thinking of waste and excess,
Right.
and we're thinking of meeting basic needs.
That's right.
Hmm.
That's excellent. Beautiful. Basically.
So, especially this question about, people trying to work on homelessness issues themselves needing a place to stay. It's not a thing that I had really considered before.
Everyone here's talking about non-tangible things like wraparound resources, and of course everyone needs money, funding. One thing that I want to focus on is the tangible things. So JP's giving me a look like, uh-oh.
I'm thinking of a water heater right
You're
now.
thinking about, okay. So one of the first things that comes to mind is, and what we need to fulfill our goals in West Cal, our mission is materials and also interest from different industries, which is why we're actually here. We're here to network, we're here to connect with different people from all walks of life. And also why, we're here with JAMCO, Maritime. We want to give students access to an opportunity to leave the environments that they come from that are toxic or broken environments, give them a chance to explore the world, because a lot of them stay within their neighborhoods. They get released from the juvenile halls, they go back to the communities that they came from.
Right.
That's all they know, and then they end up back in juvie, or worse, they go to the big house, as they call it, and it's not a joke. It's not a joke. We've had students say, oh, I came from LP, which many of you may know, it's all over the news. I heard a story of one student that actually was re-released from LP, which is basically like human warehousing, before they take them to a different facility, like all the other camps. And when he was re-released from LP to Barry J. Nidor, he literally got on his knees and he kissed the ground. Yes, he kissed the ground. And he said, I don't want to go back to LP. I want to improve my life. And one of the ways that we need to help these students is hands-on career exploration. We have brought automotive, thanks to Kyle back there. He's actually our automotive guy. Thank you for bringing the car over to Barry J. It was actually the very first automotive hands-on lab at any of the probation camps, where they actually got to take the wheels off of the cars, change the oil. That's exactly what they needed. We had one gentleman, he was 14. He said, I get to finally impress my girlfriend, or I'll get to teach my son. A lot of these kids are fathers at such a young age, below the age of 18. They go, this is something that I need. This is something that I would love to pass on to my child. So we need more materials. We need more interest from different industries to say, hey, I come from the solar industry, the solar panel industry, or maritime. From nursing, from the medical field, come to West Cal and donate materials. We need materials, hands-on materials we can bring into these halls and camps, and because they can't leave, we have to bring the industries to them on the inside, so that when they come back outside, they are already familiar with these industries. So, thank you.
I wanted to circle back, and I know we're pressed against time. People that are already marginalized, we write the things in grants and we talk about these different things, and I want to give Dr. Dorsey his flowers, and that is, you have to be one-on-one with people. Paper doesn't translate into people. No. And so you may get the grant, but you're going to need someone that has empathy, so that the person that you're talking to isn't marginalized because they're living in a tent. Or they're bathing, because I had, when I was living in Long Beach, I allow our homeless women up the hill to come and use my water faucet. I'd open up the gate on the side so they could bathe and go back up the hill. This is what we have to deal with. And so we write grants, but we don't write grants on humanity. Where's the humanity in the grants that we write? Don't give me $40,000 and then want to choke me on how I'm going to spend it. There's not conventional ways in which we can do that. And so it's teaching wisdom academically, what they call the antecedent, the purpose of a thing. What is the purpose of the grant that you're giving me? You can't give me the grant and then dictate to me that I have to put people's information up. People don't want to know. There's students that sleep in Long Beach. They don't want people to know that they're sleeping in the car. They don't want them to know that. They don't want to know that they got out of their car to go to the job interview. Or they're standing there, or they can't read well because they have a learning disability. Because we have invisible disabilities. Do our grants cover that? So those are the things that we need to tuck in and say to the grant writers, those that are funding, come and walk with me. Do a Kaizen walk with me. Why don't you come and walk with me? Because I've had to pull CFOs out of their office, out of Ivory Tower, and say, come and have a Kaizen walk with me. Let's do some Toyota walking. Let's walk the floor, right? Let's go underneath the freeways, right? Let's go sit in the cars. People just didn't wake up and decide to become homeless. They just, at 7, I decided I'm going to be a homeless person. Yeah, exactly. And so it's bringing reality into academia, bringing the marginalized to let them have the respect and dignity. Although they're coming to get a box of food, they still should get their dignity. And getting the box of food, getting the shoes, and that's what I have. But I heard when you said that, transparency, and they're already marginalized. So let's not re-traumatize them, right? So then they don't want to ask, because you really don't want to ask in the first place. So it's moving past that, and so you have to empower people in their poverty. Because I can make rice 5 different ways. And stretch it. Can we do that?
Very much
so you learn to do that. But that should be a skill, and you don't need a PhD to hustle.
Okay.
Some of us got, if they were handing out doctorates, we'd already have a PhD. Because we got hustle down pat.
I had a question. I know we're running up against time. Jay, I want to know if there's any questions.
Each of you has talked about disadvantage. Right? So it you know, hidden disability may have led to their homeless situation, may have blocked them from opportunities to take on jobs.
Yes.
Or may have put them in a position where they got caught up in the law enforcement and incarceration system, right? So these things kind of then start to turn into this patchwork of challenges that need to be overcome. And while each organization is trying to address a particular need or to help people take advantage of a specific opportunity, we start to recognize that, you know, to get people ready to embrace the blessing, we have to then think about all these other things that may be happening. I commend each of you for doing that kind of wraparound work and really embracing people that you serve. I would just ask, you know, as we kind of, as we're up in our final minutes, you know, you've given some instructions around, you know, what grantors should and should not be doing. But what can other community organizations or other people who are supposed to be working with people do to help us be more effective when we're trying to run programs to help people of color and folks from disadvantaged communities?
There's a question behind you.
Well, yes. I need
Brother-
the mic.
yeah,
Oh my
please.
God. I'm
We gotta hear
myself,
this.
I'm blasting again, right? I'm showing my age. I don't know who mentioned
you
that
are. It's
earlier.
okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
You know, started the gangsters back in '93, October, here in the valley. Law enforcement hasn't changed as much concerning dealing with some of the social issues, including the homeless population. We need to hold our electeds accountable on who's receiving the resources. The ones that I know, the agencies in the past were, you know, I'm gonna talk about Zidar's brother, Arthur, was a grassroots spiritual leader, but gave so much of his heart in helping the AIDS victims that were being ignored in Pacoima. For free. And he gave them a hard time for a budget of $10,000 a year.
Yes.
That's right.
I understood that. I understand some of the comments he made. But we as a group need to do something to make sure that these programs ain't going to these multi-million-dollar agencies that are coming from who knows where, but are working with the grassroots leadership within our different communities. Because I'm sorry, the PhDs from the guy who grew up in Pacoima is a lot more important to me than the person that's very nice to me that came from West LA. I'm just being real. I'm being real. And I'm real to them because, believe me, I go to some of these meetings and I put people on check over this. Because I'm not about poverty pimping, because I know in my last 30 years doing this work, I've done 16-hour days with only 4 hours paid.
This is it.
I'm just being real. You know what I mean? I ain't got this gray hair at this young age. I've had it since I was 30, by the way, playing Santa, okay? This was a bigger shirt at one time. I mean, I was a bigger man fitting into a tighter shirt. But I'm being real about how I see the group here with the program here. I'm feeling, actually giving me a little more hope. Because I thought I was fighting an uphill battle going to some of these city council meetings, supervisor meetings, and quietly seeing only 10 people there, and they're looking at me red-eyed when I say these comments.
Keep saying it.
You know, on a homeless, there's no reason why a homeless shelter bed's costing the government $2,500 or $10,000 a month when we got these poor young people of color ministers who having a heart, have degrees, and do it for free.
That's it.
All they need some help to help pay their rent.
Right.
The light of these small, either garages, whatever they use, and we understand these drug and alcohol programs as part of that. Let's be real. Cut that in half, give them $500 a month. They're helping 10 people. Believe me, they'll be able to give them some steak 3 or 4 times a week
That's it.
to the homeless folks. You know what I mean? I know what it means to eat out of a can on purpose.
Yeah.
Right? How many times you see them in line, and some of the folks I see handing out these canned goods, they've been there, 3 years or whatever, and I'm saying, how does that taste? Corned beef hash tastes a little tough, you know what I mean? I get it. You know, try it out. Try it out. That's all I gotta say for those that haven't done it. Try it out. You understand where I'm coming from. So I go and I'll tell my wife, I got been remarried 2 years, man. She's teaching me some tricks on how to cook some of this food, man. You know what I mean? I've lost 30 pounds too. Yeah. But I'm done with that question. That is my comment. I'm saying I agree, and we need to hold our people who give out these funds a combo to feed the grassroots people who are in the ground. Okay, thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
So, Jay, this is what I know. Most of us here on grassroots agencies, we call it boots on the ground, because we actually touch the people. My husband gets upset, because I'm always in sneakers, even when I'm in high heels. And if I see a homeless person or a senior or a veteran, I'm jumping out of my car, because I got supplies.
All right,
Okay? We have showers. All homeless people don't look alike.
that's right.
Okay? We have a shower, the people stop, their families come shower before they take their kids to school, before they go to work.
That's right.
Not everybody is a crazy person,
That's right.
and that's what the world, that's what we show, and that's not what it is. My seniors and our veterans that are trying to get re-educated and get acclimated back in the world, we can't, everybody is not social media. So guess what? They need hands-on people to show them, not just put them in front of a computer and expect them to work it. They don't have that skill. My senior citizens, they work physical labor all their life. They need retraining. They want to talk on the telephone now. But guess what? They don't know how to do it, and we're just saying, oh, well, here's the cell phone, or here's the computer, you know how to work it. I teach my people that, hey, typing on that phone is a lot different than typing on that computer.
Right.
It's a whole different skill set.
Yeah.
But if you can, if I can get you to type 45 words a minute, you can go to the county and get a $26 an hour job. But you can't get no $26 an hour job typing on that telephone. So what we need is our small grassroots agencies to quit working in silos.
That's it.
We will be so much powerful but big organizations have made us feel and have taught us that we're fighting for the little bit of funding that there is there. And so we don't work together, we work in silos. She's doing the same thing I'm doing the same thing that he's doing.
Right.
And we're so afraid that if we work together, then, and this happened to me, I'm not gonna lie, I've teamed up with people.